Hello and welcome to the Temple of Tomes with your host, Indie Comics Jones. Today is November 26th, 2020, and this is episode 140. Today we're going to take a look at the Scumbag. The world's fate rests with the worst person on it. This is issue number 2 at $3.99 from Image Comics. Now we did do number 1 and that did get a recommend. However, this one, I think I'm off the series. To be honest with you, I did not enjoy this one as much as the first one. The first one was very quirky, very disturbing at times, but it had a good pace to it. It had some great art. It had a lot going for it. The story was very interesting. Now this one has kind of just fallen into a kind of a back and forth between the two main characters here. The guy that plays the Scumbag, Mr. Clementine, and whatever this agent's name is. And they just kind of go back and forth. And right off the bat, where we get the very, very tiny little quote in here. And I just want to say that I can barely read that with a magnifying glass. And for a professional comic book company to do something like that, it kind of tans my hide. Now let's take a look at an amateur's comic book. He puts it here. I think this has a lot more impact, making it big like this, if they're trying to do something. And this is an amateur. This is from Richard Meyer's, I believe it's like, Do What You Say, Do What They Say, The Ballad of No. And so when he did his quote, he did it nice and big. Seems like it has a lot more impact on it. But not only does Image do it this way, and I don't know if that's the author or the letterer or the artist or who decides to do it that way. Not only do they do it this way, they double down and you get another one that's super tiny. It's even smaller than the font that they use in the regular story. So anyway, we pick up kind of where, exactly where we left off, where Scumbag has been, I'm going to just call him Scumbag instead of his other name. It's very long, Mr. Clementine. Scumbag character has received the injection of the super formula. He still doesn't know that it is a super formula. He thinks it's just a regular drug. He doesn't realize there's any kind of superpowers involved, and he goes back into his favorite bar just to hang out for a while. And we just get this point where his new agent buddy, the one that he's working with, who's trying to get him to find some bomb in the city, comes up and just shows him basically trying to entice him to help go along with her. Shows him like a case full of drugs. And, so we get a little back and forth between the two, and it's like she's just kind of a prettier, cleaner version of the Scumbag at this point. And they get in the car, they drive around. In the meantime, we get to see who the real villains are, and it turns out to be, believe it or not, a bunch of white males. And actually we have a politician here that looks kind of like Ted Kennedy, kind of like Herbert Humphrey, kind of like an amalgamation of all those Democratic politicians. A little McGovern in there maybe. But yeah, so they're trying to get him to go buy some cheap fuel, cheap resources. He's saying it's going to wreck jobs and everything. Suddenly he turns around and they zap him with the mind control. And I don't know, this just doesn't really go anywhere fast. It really just kind of moves along. And so they kind of take over his office. He's now under the control of these spy people or whatever, and they're bringing people in. And meanwhile, the two agents are trying to find the bomb, and it just kind of drags. It doesn't really take off like you would hope it would. I don't know. Then he starts hallucinating, seeing a younger version of himself. But all in all, I just think it's kind of a mess all of a sudden, and it just kind of doesn't deliver. It's not compelling. So anyway, I'm not going to recommend it. I'm going to go off the comic right now. The stuff that's supposed to be funny is not really funny. Uh, it's a disappointment, especially after the way the first one started. Now, I know there's probably a lot of critics out there that will probably go ahead and give it a thumbs up on it just because it's Rick Remender. I should say I didn't start with that, but Rick Remender is the writer on this, but I'm kind of disappointed, honestly. The artist is Andrew Robinson. Again, he does a very nice job. If you were into Andrew Robinson's art, I would definitely probably get this. Definitely probably. Um, probably get this because it is nice. Does a good job on it. So he seems in. It's kind of funny. He's got like all these six-pack here, and then over here he's just like this blobby guy. But anyway, that's the story on this one. I don't really have anything really more to add to it. I just was kind of disappointed. Here's the new leader of the bad guys. You saw these guys earlier trying to coerce that politician, actually brainwashing them. And then there's a big bomb. I don't know. To be continued. They're stretching the story out. So, next issue, there's the cover if you're interested. I am not. So, thank you for stopping by. Sorry, I just could not get into this comic. Thank you for stopping by the Temple of Tomes. As always, please like, subscribe, comment. I know I get a lot of blowback on the more famous writers and things and titles when I give it a negative review, but I just can't recommend this. I'm done right off the bat. So I'll see you guys later. Thanks for stopping by. Once again, this is Indie Comics Jones from the Temple of Tomes bidding you adieu.